about Trump's request for a voter fraud investigation by senators on the Judiciary Committee. It's likely he will respond before the committee vote on his nomination next Tuesday. Wolf?
Pamela Brown reporting for us. Thanks very much. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. He's a key member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Wolf.
What's your reaction to the cancellation of this planned meeting next Tuesday between President Trump and President Peña Nieto of Mexico? The Mexican president announced he wasn't coming.
Well, it's a major issue. First of all, there's no way that President Peña Nieto could possibly come to the United States with the announcement of President Trump that Mexico is going to pay for the wall. Secondly, Mexico is our second largest export market in the world as of the end of 2015, the last year we have records for. We sent about $267 billion of U.S. goods and services to Mexico. So we have actually a export surplus when it comes to services that we provide and get paid for in Mexico. So it's our front door neighbor, and the reality is we have much intertwined in terms of our respected interests and fate. So you know, this is a major challenge to the U.S.-Mexico relationship, which is important to us in so many different dimensions.
And speaking of that, the United States and Mexico have a very important security relationship. As you know, the two nations cooperate very closely on drug trafficking, terrorism, for example. Are those security agreements in jeopardy right now?
Well, I hope not. I mean, it's in both countries' interests to stop the drug trafficking, human smuggling, the variety of issues we have with gangs in the Western Hemisphere, particularly in Central America as they try to get their reach up into the United States. So it's in both countries' interests. But obviously, when you continue to challenge a country, when you say to your neighbor who lives next door, if we were living side by side as neighbors, and you say, there's no fence between us, but by the way, I'm going to put one up and you're going to pay for it. Well, that's just impossible to accept for the president of Mexico, and the Mexican people are very proud. So at the end of the day, this permeates the overall relationship, but I certainly hope the security element of it and the interest we mutually have will be preserved, notwithstanding this challenge that we have between President Trump and President Peña Nieto.
Now, the White House a few hours ago suggested the president wants maybe a 20% tax on all imports from Mexico coming to the United States to pay for that wall, for the border wall. Since then, the White House has now started to walk that back. They got a lot of grief from a lot of Republicans, I should say, as a result of that initial proposal, how to pay for the wall. But do you worry that the U.S. and Mexico right now could be headed toward a trade war?
Well, Wolf, as a senior member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the ranking Democrat on the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee, and as a member of the Senate Finance Committee that deals with all tax and trade questions, yeah, I am worried. Because you know what? Okay, you're going to slap 20% on Mexico, so they'll slap 20% on the $267 billion that the United States sells in goods and services to their country. Those are goods and services made by Americans here, jobs in the United States. And at the end of the day, if that's what's going to happen, the American workers suffer, and at the same time, consumers suffer because the imports that come from Mexico, particularly in food product, among others, are ultimately going to be far more expensive for the consumer. And we have World Trade Organization's obligations. I'm not sure how this sits in the context of our World Trade obligations. So at the end of the day, you don't want to start disrupting the international order because others will find the belief that if you can do it, so can we.
Your Senate colleague, your Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, he just tweeted this, and I'll put it up on the screen. Let me read it to you. Simply put, any policy proposal which drives up costs of Corona, tequila, or margaritas is a big-time bad idea. Mucho sad. Your reaction to Senator Lindsey Graham? He was obviously trying to instill a little humor in that.
Yeah, and Senator Graham and I get along very well. We see in many parts of the world eye to eye, even though we're on separate sides of the aisle. And he is probably, one of the members of the Senate who has the greatest humor in the context of being able to use it in a very powerful way. The reality is that all those things that he talked about and things that are maybe far more important, like food products, are going to be more costly to U.S. citizens. And when our products become more expensive, if there's a retaliatory tariff by Mexico, that's going to affect jobs here in the United States. That's not how you become the greatest job creator ever known to mankind. And so, our challenge is we need to work with Mexico and get our relationship to meet our mutual challenges, to create greater stability, greater economic growth, to control the traffic of people, and at the same time protect ourselves against the scourge of gangs and